Now,
I'll get Cheryl's number for you.
My friends, some of my dear friends are Organic Valley producers. And I went over there one day and they says, well, they're kind of upset. I go, what's the matter? He goes, well, we can't sell milk out the bulk tank anymore. And I said, well, why not? And he goes, well, Organic Valley says we can't do it. And I said, well, have they got the Organic Valley police going around here? Well, they go, kind of. I says, hang on a second. So I call up Dr. Paul Detloff. He was a head vet. He's all but retired. I says, Paul, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm sitting in LAX. We're heading off to Australia with George Seaman, the president of Organic Valley. I says, good, put me on the cell phone. I says, Paul, this is ridiculous that a farmer can't have a side job. He says, what do you mean? I says, everybody goes to work. Paul, don't you have a paycheck from Organic Valley? And don't you have a sideline of stuff that you said? I says, that's your side job. That's your med money. That's your cash. And you're telling these farmers that they can't sell 15 gallons a week out the back door for some cash under the table? And he goes, well, Richard, we're having a problem with people, the truck is showing up and there's no milk. And I go, kick them off the truck. I says, that's ridiculous. That's why they're there. That's the paycheck. And they backed right off it. So everybody has a side job, and I have a side job. I have vitamins. I go on the road lecturing, and I enjoy teaching. So what I talk about in everything that in my life is encompassed with is minerals. And my mineral curiosity started when I was 4 years old. We went to a Rexall to go get my mother some kind of medical pill. And I walked up to a book rack, because that's when they actually had book racks in drugstores. And I walked up to a book of rocks, and my mother goes, you like that? I go, yeah, I do. I think I'm going to know a lot about rocks someday. So she bought me that book rock, and I still have it to this day. Went through doctor school and found out that, there's a lot going on with health, and I could make a good living as a chiropractor. And I only had one question: why does it work? Well, we really don't know, but it works really good. You'll make a good living. I go, well, everybody seems to think it doesn't work, although everybody makes a good living. Why does it work? Well, just find a technique that works. There's so many techniques, you'll find one that makes you a living. Everybody, they'll flock to you because you're good at that technique. I'm like, I only got one question. Why does it work? So that was the never-ending question that I've always had. And it ended up that learning about rocks at an early age and learning about minerals led me to an understanding and writing books and traveling. So I start all my lectures off. So this is repetitive for some of you that's been in this room all day, but I have to play this. It's called The Elements. It's the Element Song.
Can we sing along now?
If it'll play.
There's antimony, arsenic, aluminum, selenium, and hydrogen, and oxygen, and nitrogen, and rhenium, and nickel, neodymium, neptunium, germanium, and iron, and magnesium, ruthenium, uranium, europium, zirconium, lutetium, vanadium, and lanthanum, and osmium, and astatine, and radium, and gold, protactinium, and indium, and gallium, and iodine, and thorium, and thulium, and thallium. There's yttrium, and terbium, actinium, rubidium, and boron, gadolinium, niobium, iridium, and spermium, and silicon, and silver, and samarium, and chromium, lithium, beryllium, and barium. There's holmium, and helium, and hafnium, and erbium, and phosphorus, and francium, and fluorine, and terbium, and manganese, and mercury, and molybdenum, and magnesium, dysprosium, and scandium, and cerium, and cesium, and lead, praseodymium, and platinum, plutonium, palladium, promethium, potassium, polonium, tantalum, technetium, titanium, tellurium, and cadmium, and calcium, and chromium, and curium. There's sulfur, californium, and fermium, berkelium, and also mendelevium, isanium, nobelium, and argon, titanium, radon, titanium, and rhodium, and chloride, copper, cobalt, copper, tungsten, tin, and sodium. These are the only ones that push the middle system too hard. And then maybe many others, but they haven't been discovered.
Everything that is made of a mineral, and our DNA code is made of minerals. There's no doubt about that. And it's our DNA code that has to sort out the good minerals from the bad minerals, hyperaccumulate the good minerals, get rid of the bad minerals. And DNA, in cooperation with all these minerals, generates magnetic energy fields, the ley lines of the body, if you would. These are called acupuncture meridians. There's an 8,000-year-old study of the flow of magnetic energy, and people call it acupuncture, acupressure, and there are, the world's full of acupuncturists. And I took a look at all these minerals, and I ended up writing a book with Charles Walters, the founder of Acres USA, called Minerals for the Genetic Code. We released that in 2005. It's on its 4th edition. And I made a lot of speculation that people just scratched their head and said, we really hope you're right, because you really made a lot of assertions here. A couple of years ago, I come across the database. It's the University of Calgary. The metabolomic portion of this institute was given $90 million by the Canadian government and says, go buy all the sophisticated equipment there are, because we're going to have you do testing. They tested blood, they tested saliva, they tested hair. No, they didn't test hair. They tested semen, they tested cerebrospinal fluid. Well, I took a great interest in cerebrospinal fluid. It's the third most abundant fluid of the human body. It's produced in your brain and it's replenished every 8 hours. There's not a lot of things that can be said about replenishing that fluid. Up until fairly recently, maybe 20 years, they just go, well, it's just salt water and it's only there to buffer your head for injury. And that's anything but the truth. It might buffer your head from injury, but it's the disposal system. It's the trash can. The body stuffs things in there it doesn't know what to do with. It can sequester it. It can keep it from reacting. And the good stuff that's in there can control your genetic code. 80% of your immune system is your gut bacteria. Where's the other 20%? It's the cerebrospinal fluid leaking out every nerve that controls that, and what's in that becomes very important. So I data mined through the metabolomic database all the minerals and found out there's 42 minerals in cerebrospinal fluid. And I looked at the list and I go, nice impressive list. I wonder if they read my book, because every mineral I predicted was in this fluid, and there were minerals that shouldn't be there, in my opinion, because they found some of these minerals and I think they're there for sequestration purposes and they have no known use or value. But I think with today's modern life of all the material that we come encountered with and how we've dissected our environment and reconstituted it in various whatever it is we want to use it for, or put into the air or the water if you don't want it, it's where we come into contact. And to keep your immune system operating good, you need to take a look at what that fluid can do for you. This isn't the best picture that I wanted to show you because my book suddenly is missing that picture. On the left, you can barely see the head, and you'll see there is no green. Up until 2 years ago, they said there was no lymphatic drainage out of the brain of the head. That was a stated fact. They have rewrote all the anatomy books based on the newest research, and they, at that time, they said, well, all this fluid that's in your brain, it just goes into the veins, and it gets taken directly to your heart. That's not true. None of it goes to your veins. It all goes into the lymphatic ducts. And the lymphatic ducts are much closer to the skin than the veins. The veins go deep, and the lymphatic duct is under the skin, and you can see how that green on the right-hand side goes right down the side of your neck. We all have children with lymph nodes that are swelled up. We can feel it. We know where they're at. And now we have hair growing out of the same area. So we can take hair off the head and do a screening for 38 of the 42 minerals. And to me, it's an excellent screening tool. The human body is minerals. You've got oxygen, carbon, hydrogen. Oxygen and hydrogen make what? Water. So we have all these various minerals in our body in various amounts. So in cerebrospinal fluid, the tally of the number of genes that this controls in your immune system is very impressive. it controls over 11,000 of your 21,000 genes. So when you see a chiropractor and he puts his hand on your spine and he applies energy and does what, he adjusts you or manipulates you or breaks your neck, it doesn't make a difference. He's applying energy. Energy equals mass at the speed of light. So at the time you're getting a treatment and somebody is putting energy into the system, they're changing the mass of you. Because energy equals matter, and if you change the energy, you'll change the mass, and you hope the DNA code catches up to this problem that a person has. Your blood pressure is 120/80, add it together, divide by 2, you have approximately 100 pounds pressure at any given time in your arteries. The brain and the spinal column operates at 20 pounds PSI. That's a lot less. And there are 64 nerves that this fluid goes out. So if you take 20 divided by 60, you don't have a pound per square inch. It's much less than that. Much, much less than that. We have a respiratory cycle. Every time you breathe in and breathe out, and there's a lot of people that go to practitioners, a sacral occipital or craniosacral, all these different practitioners, they're trying to get that fluid moving. You go to a chiropractor, they're forcefully doing things to your spine to break up fixations to what? Get that fluid moving. When that fluid is not moving, and the substance called neurotrophic substance is not moving, tissues go into a state of inflammation. And that's when you go, I gotta see a chiropractor because I'm out. I know I'm out. I can't turn my head. This hurts, that hurts. I got the sciatica, I got all these things. So you go get treated, gets the fluid moving. But today's environment, with the toxins that we have, and the complete demineralization of the food, you can do a screening to find out if you're getting enough of these minerals or if you're getting the wrong kind of minerals. So we start with water, because water can tell me a lot. I can do a hair test. It can be full of cadmium and mercury and all kinds of stuff. Let me find the all kinds of stuff guy. No, that's not the all kinds of stuff guy. This is the guy that is no longer walking Earth. This is what a cancer patient of the lungs, the mesothelioma, the stuff that you get from asbestos. This is what his hair test looks like. His job was a plumber in the days of lead, and he puts fluoride all over the pipes, that purple stuff, and then he puts the glue on and puts it together, and he takes copper pipes and he heats it up and he uses flux, and the ethylene flux is fluoride, and then he was sticking lead and silver and now tin and antimony, and he has all these heavy metals. Well, that's what I learned from a screening on this guy. It's like, well, I can see why you have a major problem. You are so full of heavy minerals, it's not funny. He had a lot of good minerals. He had way too many of all the good minerals trying to compensate for this type of toxicity. So hair test with aluminum, I think, is fairly accurate. Whether the aluminum is coming from the water supply, if you live in a town where they add aluminum to the drinking water, or you're eating Velveeta cheese. That's why it melts so easy. And there's a lot of stuff. You can take a woman's one a day. Woman's one a day's got 4 kinds of aluminum in it. The places that you get aluminum all over the place is just frightening, and you don't want it. Aluminum is a bad deal, and you need to do something to get rid of it. And when we see high aluminum, we put everybody on the Chinese parsley called cilantro. C-E, I don't know how it's spelled.
C-I.
Yeah, listen to her.
It must be grown in good soil.
Got to be grown in good soil. But that is the great aluminum and the great mercury detoxifier. And when I see high aluminum, I tell people to cook with it every day. Put it in a stew, put it in your salad. You will not like it at first. It's kind of bitter. I've really become accustomed to it a lot. I like it a lot. It's one of those foods that you don't like at first, but you grow accustomed to it. And I eat it and like it because I know what it does for me. Then it starts tasting even better. This gentleman was full of antimony. Well, when they got the lead out of soldering in households, they put antimony in because antimony is the perfect mixture with tin to heat up and make this stuff flow between pipes. And he was sitting around and he was inhaling it. So the screening on him was, okay, well, we got antimony. But let's just say he wasn't a plumber and we have high antimony. where's this antimony coming from? Well, this antimony will be coming from plastic water bottles, bottled water. The longer it's in the water, the longer the water's in the bottle, the more antimony you're going to have, and this is only in parts per billion. And you can always spot a bottled water drinker on a hair test. And if you get a whole family in there and everybody's high in antimony, you know darn well that they go to Walmart once a week and they buy the water by the cases. You see it all the time. You walk them out of there, they got their diet this, their diet that, and they got their case of water. And then you see those really crazy pictures on the internet of what people look like at Walmart. I see a lot of arsenic. I condemn an arsenic well a week, and that is no joke whatsoever, because when Mr. and Mrs. Smith send their hair in and they got red line arsenic, I go, look, your water's got to be tested. I mean, you know, you may have bladder cancer right now. You want to know where it came from, you better take a look at your arsenic levels. When we find the arsenic in the water, that supply has to be heavily filtered. And yes, you can get anything out of the water supply, and arsenic is an expensive one to get out. To get a really good water filtration system for arsenic, it's about $7,000 for a whole house. And you got to change the filters 5 years, and the filters are $3,000. But that's the cost of doing business. Reverse osmosis is a poor man's way out of most of this stuff. You can put it underneath your sink. If your kids are having an apartment, you know they're going to move in a year or two. My son decided he's going to go to Northern Michigan College in Marquette at the last second, and I'm sitting around going, oh man. So I get on the line, Marquette City Water Supply, Water Report. Yes, they fluoridate the drinking water for children's teeth. Great. My son's not a child, but he's still going to get fluoridated. So I call up his academic dean, and I go, I have a special needs child. He goes, we take care of all special needs. I go, my son's allergic to fluoride in drinking water. He goes, huh? I says, you don't have to worry. I got a brand new reverse osmosis. I says, I'll come up and install it. You can't do that. We're a union. Called back an hour later. It's going to be $400. I said, I don't care. He says, you put it in his dorm room, and I'll provide it. So my son was there one semester, and they kicked him out because he had to be vaccinated to stay.
Oh, come on.
And when they give me my water reverse osmosis back, you know, Marquette, winter, this thing called cold, they let it sit in the garage, and the thing was all busted up. So not only did my kid get kicked out of school because he doesn't believe in getting vaccines, I don't know where he got that. Everybody in the dorm that he lived in found out he had good water, so he left his door open, and people wandered in and out of his room day and night getting water.
Cool.
So it cost me $800 to keep a dorm away from fluoride for 1 semester. So aluminum is you'll find it, an antimony, and arsenic, you've got to get that filtered out. I do see a lot of barium in people's hair. And there are, believe it or not, there's a lot of groundwater and there's a lot of city water that has barium. And barium has to be removed from the body as fast as possible, and it does it with the use of selenium. So whenever I see a hair test and barium is elevated, calcium, magnesium, and strontium are going to be all out to lunch, and the barium is going to be down to the bottom of the tank. And when the bottom of the tank hits for selenium, the bodies become engrossed with viruses. 65% of all cancers, and right now the cancer rate is 1 in 2 men and 1 in 2.5 women will get cancer. The number one anti-cancer gene in the human body is called P53, also known as the guardian of the genetic code. They don't work without selenium. So when you get low on selenium, you get viruses, and when you get viruses, it contributes to the demortalization of your cells. They take on a life of their own. They don't like to die, they divide, and every time they divide, they have more and more problems. And selenium deficiency can be brought on from simply having barium in drinking water. Some of the worst cases of barium I've seen are young adults that go, oh, I need to make my hair red today and blue tomorrow, green the next day, and they have a different colored hair for as long as they put the dyes in there. Those dyes are made from minerals. And I have seen some of the worst case of barium coming from the dyes. They're not listed on the label, but when I test the hair, they're definitely there. And they get blinding headaches, and they get severe memory loss. And they get, if they're older, they get diagnosed with dementia and Alzheimer's without any further testing done because they're so bad off with memory. And you take the barium out of them, and they come back to life. And I've seen it many times with people having blinding headaches and severe memory problems, and the barium is right through the roof. And you get the barium out of them, and their brain will come back to normal. The next one you see beryllium. I don't really see too much beryllium. Beryllium is famous because every time the space shuttle came back from an orbit, the bottom of that space shuttle is all beryllium. So I don't see much of that, but if I do see it, they're going to have dentures. And when people pull them plates out of their mouth and they got all that metal bridging, that metal bridging has lots and lots of beryllium in it. And that is a problem. But I don't really see much of that at all. I mean, if I see beryllium elevated, it's just amazing because I don't see it much. The next one is bismuth. Bismuth to me is a very bad mineral, and I see it when people have chronic indigestion problems and they take the pink stuff, Pepto-Bismol. And if they swear up and down to me that they don't have any Pepto-Bismol in their life, look for the makeup. Because they put a lot of bismuth in makeup, and their body pulls that bismuth right in, and it ends up in your system, and your body will shed it through the hair. Bismuth is also an antibiotic. That's why people that have indigestion take it, because it can make them symptomatically feel better very, very fast, but bismuth will goof up the phosphorus-nitrogen ratios and make it very hard for good bacteria to continue to survive in your gut. Cadmium is a universal poison. It's not as bad as it used to be. The commercials that most doctors prefer Territons, and I'd rather fight than switch, and Viceroys that taste good and make you good looking. Cigarettes was the biggest source of cadmium. And when you see cadmium toxicity, you're going to always come across smokers. Now, the people that chew tobacco have high arsenic levels, not cadmium levels.
Is that something they added, or is that in
Nope,
tobacco?
it's in there. It's in tobacco. Yes.
Although it's second from smoke.
Well, that's where it comes from. Inhaling smoke.
You expect a smoker to have it, so it's also in the second.
If it's in the air you're breathing, it's pretty darn assured that you're going to absorb some of it. Yes, ma'am.
What about commercial paints?
The question is about commercial paints and cadmium. I don't see paints having cadmium in it. Cadmium is a relatively rare mineral. Now, if you've ever been in the city and it's a hot day and a big truck pulls up next to you and you have that sweet smell, that's their brakes, and the brakes are all made from cadmium. So where I see the cadmium workers is when a guy, you get a young kid, he's learning how to work on cars, and you hand him an air gun, and he takes the tire off, and he wiggles the brake drum off, and he takes his gun and blows it, and all that smoke goes around. But he's inhaling cadmium with every breath now, because it's something that can take a tremendous amount of heat, and it's used in the abrasion industry of making brakes work. Cadmium is in fuel oils. Cadmium is in greases. You don't ever see mechanics put gloves on to drain the oil out of a car or a tractor. And then the oil's hot, they just stick your fingers in, find the plug, and the oil's drained out, put it back in, take a rev and wipe it off. At the end of the day, their hands are always black, and they got stuff under their fingernails. There's a lot of heavy metals that are in oil that's going right through your skin because there's oil carrier there. So you're always, whenever I see high cadmium, I ask them if they smoke or used to smoke. Get a lot of anger issues with cadmium. It displaces zinc. Pull up this particular chart is nothing you're going to find. I've made it up in my research. Now I've highlighted zinc, and you'll see that it says +2, and you go to the side it says zinc and 3. We'll go up and you'll see chromium 3 and +2. Why do you have chromium? You have chromium there to make the insulin molecule. Chromium is present to put zinc onto insulin. So you've heard of glucose tolerance factor chromium. So they're like oppose each other. Chromium is above cobalt at 3 and zinc is below it. And you go to the next blocking down here, you'll see that cadmium is at a +2 on the left and a 3 on the right. And when cadmium goes into the system, it just displaces zinc. And it sits where zinc is supposed to sit. But it's the wrong shape, the wrong size, and the wrong frequency. It just does, it can't do what it's supposed to do. So cadmium becomes a real bad toxic when it blocks zinc. And you start blocking zinc, you're blocking the glue that holds DNA together. These are called zinc fingers in the genetic field. And you have lots and lots of zinc fingers. You have 2,000 or 3,000 genes associated with zinc. And when you have cadmium going in and shutting down a lot of these gene outputs, the protein being made in the presence of cadmium is a bad deal. I got one report that the Russians did talking about ALS, also called amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, is that the part of the brain is not clearing cadmium out of there, and the superoxide dimutase number 1 is a gene that regulates copper zinc. And when it makes that molecule, these are supposed to be so far apart. When cadmium parts close enough to exert weak magnetic influence, it changes the bonding angles, and the cell says, I don't know what we just made, put it in the trash can, make another, and it keeps doing it to the point the trash can explodes and the nerve brain cell dies. And by the time you find out that you're not able to breathe or use your arms, you've lost so many brain cells. Fixing the problem doesn't even save your life if you can get the cadmium out. So it takes superoxide dimutase. It takes glutathione perioxidase. So what triggers the body into making glutathione to get it out? Selenium. See where selenium says selenium -2? See where it says cadmium +2? Your body will create glutathione and use selenium to pull the heavy metals out, but if there's no selenium, there's no glutathione. Body doesn't make glutathione without selenium. The same thing can be said for detoxification of lead and mercury. A little sticky point with mercury, as in amalgam fillings that are 55 to 60% mercury. The body will use selenium to grab a hold of the mercury at a 1-to-1 ratio. 1 selenium, 1 mercury, except the method of disposal is through semen. So it goes from man to woman in a reproductive canal. And if that woman is really low on selenium and she gets the mercury and there's not enough selenium there, this triggers an event where the viruses will take hold. And they're called HPVs, human papillary virus. And then this triggers ovarian and cervical cancer. And again, by the time you find out you got it, you're usually stage 3 or 4, and you've got some major issues going down in your life, all because you're low selenium and you're maybe had bad teeth and you're putting heavy metals in the reproductive canal. The way it's supposed to go is the selenium is supposed to go to the breast tissue, the ovarian tissue, and the thyroid. The thyroid, to make your hormones right, this selenium goes to the breast tissue because that's the #1 trace mineral that allows a growing brain to function, and it also makes nerve growth in the right path. But if it gets these other minerals and you end up using selenium as a way of getting rid of stuff, it gives you real bad problems. So that's what hair testing gives me, a screening. And I don't use it more than a screening. Oops, wrong one. Bad minerals. So lead, mercury. The next one is platinum. Unless you're undergoing platinum-based chemotherapy, I don't ever see it. I just don't see it. Yes, sir.
You mentioned something in your last workshop about selenium. You said there was a certain type.
Yes. Oh, that's a good question.
Could you clarify that for us?
Nature played a trick on people. Selenium, in terms of a mineral, all minerals have electrical charges. a great understanding is to understand what sodium and chloride relationship is. Sodium is +1, chloride is -1. One is male, one is female, and they bond, and they lock together. Selenium has to be a -2 for us to use it. But nature has provided that little quirk where selenium is +2, +4, and +6. +6 will kill you. +4 makes you very sick. +2 is used in Selsun Blue hair shampoo. So you can use Selsun Blue hair shampoo. What's it for? It's for dandruff. What's some of the symptoms of selenium deficiency? Dandruff. Fluid on your inner ear. So I went to NASA. I contacted a researcher. I said, I think you all know why you had space sickness. This is 1984. And I had a 5-hour meeting. And they said, we know what's going on with selenium. Do you know what a dry room is? And I go, yeah, I don't need a towel. He goes, no. He says, you do this, and that puts particles into the air, and that will migrate to our electronic equipment and short it out. So we put them into a 20-minute shower, and they scrub their whole body down and get all the extra skin off it. I go, yeah. He goes, well, we use Selsun Blue hair shampoo. And I said, you're using a +2. He says, what do you mean? I said, selenium sulfite is the active ingredient. All sulfur is -2. That means you're using a +2 selenium. They switched away from that and took organic selenium. And he goes, what's organics mean? I go, something attached to a living organism, like a yeast base, like a brewer's yeast, like a yeast-based selenium. And it got rid of 80% of space sickness. Switching to selenium. It could be that important for life. If selenium is on the tail and the head of every seed, trust me, it is very, very important. If you have an egg sitting there, the only way you knock on the door is with selenium. And if there's enough selenium to open the door, then the tail has to be strong enough to push the egg in, and that's the job of selenium to have it. So what is the biggest problem with fertility in the United States right now?
Love selenium.
No selenium. There's not enough energy in the sperm cells to even go into the egg, let alone get invited indoor.
Wow.
Because once it's in, the egg knows what to do. It whacks off the tail, and the cell starts into migration because of the selenium process. It is truly remarkable.
So what's a good source of it that you like, or you can feel comfortable recommending that selenium?
Well, if you are around and you have access to grass-fed chickens, chicken gizzards, turkey gizzards, Brazil nuts, sardines, but make sure the sardines aren't packed in genetically modified soybean oil.
Or canola oil.
Or canola oil. Yeah, or genetically modified canola oil.
Just ate some Brazil.
I just stay away from all those kind of oils. That's just the way it is. And I enjoy talking to people that are older. I get a phone call, and it's this guy's wife, and he's laid up in bed, and I got to travel 45 miles to go to a guy, and I get there, and I look too young for him because I'm not old like his buddy that's a chiropractor. And he's laying in the bed going, and I'm like, well, where are you from? I'm from Ohio. I said, what'd you do? I ran a factory. I says, what'd you make? He said, brass. I go, oh, copper and tin, eh? And he goes, yeah, and lead. I said, and lead? I said, how old are you? He says, 92. I said, you must like chicken gizzards. And his wife is in the kitchen and comes running into the room. How would you know that? I said, how would I know what? He says, he eats chicken gizzards all the time. I said, that's the only reason he's alive. Chicken gizzards are full of selenium. And he kept the brass, which is made of copper, tin, and lead, moving through his system, and he regulated this. I said, you don't have any of your friends or alive. He said, no, one. And then we got one. Because I understood what made that guy live. And you talk to anybody that's over 83 or 84 that actually has a brain that works, you're going to find out that they ate Brazil nuts and or sardines and or chicken gizzards. And if they go, no, I like the chicken livers. It's because there's a lot of selenium in chicken livers too. Now today's market, I wouldn't go into Walmart or any of these stores and buy chicken gizzards or hearts. I wouldn't buy any of that meat. But if you can get, when you do your chickens, if you've got your own free-range chickens, where your selenium is stored is into those organisms, which I think is a wonderful way to get it. Now, push come to shove, you're going to go to a health food store, you're going to buy selenomethionine.
Say it again, please.
S-E-L-N-O, seleno, S-E-L-N-O. Then methionine, M-E-T-H-I-O-N-I-N-E. Now, any form of selenium that enters your mouth has to be converted to selenomethionine before it goes into the cycles of the body. So why not put in what it needs? If you go to big box store and buy multiple vitamins going, it's got everything, it has the wrong kind of selenium in it, it has sodium selenate, and you're 40% more likely to become diabetic from taking that pill. That's the research. The next one on that list is hard to see, it's called thallium. I normally don't see thallium in the English community as a source of toxicity. Thallium is a Amish toxicity because they don't have electricity and they use a lot of propane to heat the house. And when you buy these gas mantle lamps, they have little bags on them. So they turn the gas on and they light it, and that gas mantle turns everything really bright. What makes that mantle bright is thallium. And when that bag has to be replaced, all the thallium is in the air and it's falling on everything and some of it into these people's lungs, and I end up seeing it in the hair. When I see it in the hair, I go, look, go to the bishop and ask if you can have a battery with a 12-volt LED. They won't let them put the electricity in the house, but most of them will let them switch to a 12-volt LED when they take the hair test and explain that these mantles are not very good. And a lot of Amish communities are allowing it and are switching to these 12-volt batteries. I've got a cottage in Canada. It's the best thing they ever made because I got batteries, and before I'd have to go turn generators on, now I can just walk around and turn all the lights on like I'm at home or something. The next one is thorium.
You pass through lead, mercury, and platinum.
No, I'll go back and talk about it again.
Okay, that's fine. We'll talk after.
Cadmium is coming from brakes. Cadmium is coming from cigarettes.
Right, got that.
So you see a lot of that. And if cement is made from coal fly ash, whatever's in coal fly ash, which is 1/4 of the periodic table, you'll find that wherever they're using coal fly ash in anything, you can end up with some of these minerals. I went to Australia and lectured for a month, and I did the hair analysis of 92 people. They don't have groundwater, and they don't have city water. They collect rainwater. And what we found is that they have a problem with acid rain too, with the aluminum somehow getting into the water supply. And the acidic rain is taking what they store their water in and dissolving it. Most of them have always had big, huge cement containers. They're now switching to poly tanks because the poly tanks don't seem to dissolve, and I'm not picking up any minerals out of it. But when we do these hair analysis and it comes back loaded with all these heavy metals, including thorium, it's coming from the tanks, the cement tanks being dissolved by the rainwater. And then I tell them they have to start filtering that water coming from the tank. And most of them are just tearing the tanks down and switching to poly and putting the filters on. Because every place I was at in Australia, there's always something big, and you can always find a coal burning plant within 50 miles of wherever you're going. If not driving around seeing coal burning plants. I mean, coal factories. I was all around Coal Town, and there was a lot of problems with the metals down there. So I used this screening for one family. 3 children, mom and dad. The middle child was a boy. They had all the same consistent heavy metals, which was fairly amount, but the middle boy had no cadmium. And I said, are we having a problem with learning? Are we having emotional issues? And that was a very troubled child, very introverted, and he was not excreting any cadmium because his whole family had it. He's eating the same food, they should all be the same. We put this kid on an intense cadmium detoxification program to get him to start moving that stuff out. And it took 6 months, and he became normal, as his parents called him. Because he had to move it out. His body wasn't getting rid of it for whatever reason. And the bottom line was selenium. Now, you can go to a health food store and buy glutathione and take the nice expensive pills, but you don't absorb any of it. It doesn't get across your gut wall, no way at all. What does get across your walls that's good at helping the body create glutathione is something called NAC, N-acetylcysteine. NAC. You take that, and then the cocoa cells on your intestinal wall start to generate glutathione that gets transported to wherever selenium is needed for anti-inflammatory and detoxification. And if you're going through mineral detox, always have an abundance of fatty omega-3s, whether you're taking flax oil or whatever it is you're doing for fatty omega-3s. It's one of the most important oils there are to keep your immune system in relation to your gut health healthy. Yes, ma'am.
So I find the best precursors people can do with that on juicing asparagus and juicing raw Brussels sprouts.
Raw Brussels sprouts is well noted. And
Yeah.
juicing raw asparagus.
Yeah, juicing asparagus and Brussels sprouts. And the reason why juicing is, I think, the best method of generating glutathione is because you can consume a lot of juice. Whereas, eating a few pounds of asparagus and Brussels sprouts not so easy. Plus, they're not that tasty when they're raw, which is you want to get the both in their kind of raw states, because once you cook them and you heat them over 118 degrees, a lot of the enzymes start to kind of disappear.
This young lady has a juice spa in New York, and she brought to my attention something that I'll probably have in my health food store in a week. Because it's costing me $100 to have this test done for people. And that's only half of it. The other half are all the good minerals. But she brought to attention a product out of Germany that's, tell everybody what it's tested for.
Yeah, so it's a product that's called Cell Wellbeing, and it has, aside from doing all of the, heavy metal panels, it does geopathic stress, so electromagnetic fields, radiation. It does food allergies, it does omega-3, omega-6, does all the minerals, does all the vitamins, does all the amino acid panels. It's very thorough, and it's a hair analysis test. It takes about 15 minutes to get the laboratory test back from the lab in Germany. So it's called Cell Wellbeing. So it has all of this kind of amazing stuff.
So how do you take the hair and put it in something, and then they send it to Germany? And
Yeah. So they take the hair out of the back of your neck.
Yeah.
And then there's a little, looks like a microscope. And you put it on there, and you close the microscope, and then it shoots it in for you. The hair has to be really fresh.
There's the gizmo.
Yeah.
So it has to be. They have to do it.
There's the gizmo right there. If they're able to do that technology.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Because I've got the website. It's like, how much? How much is it? Once you buy the unit, how much do you have to pay per sample?
So it's $35 per sample.
Sounds like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah.
How much is the
I'm getting
unit?
one too.
Well, because you're not getting I'm getting 38 minerals.
10,000.
But you're getting just a train load of other information.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just pH.
How about before and afters? Have you seen or heard of how the before and afters are comparing after you're juicing them?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I've been doing them religiously every couple of months, and I've seen, especially with the geopathic stuff, that's really, that changes very quickly. So where I used to, spend a lot of time in front of like LED lights and blue light toxicity,
Good.
That my geopathic panel changed exponentially. But yeah, also, with hair, I find that with heavy metals and hair analysis, it can be troublesome. Like I feel like you kind of have to also do urine and blood.
Yeah, this is a screening process. If you see things that are really bad,
Yeah.
I mean, if you see really high lead and you take it to the doctor and they say, well, there's no there. I mean, I know enough about lead that if I got a nasty dose up my nose now, 15 days, it is not going to be in my blood because I put it in my bone.
Right.
Or put it in my cerebral spinal fluid. And there's nobody running around doing spinal taps looking for heavy metals yet.
Right.
So, I mean, this is a method of doing a biopsy and getting a readout of the lymphatic draining out of the brain, and where all this stuff is proven to be, and you're trying to release it. Now, are you using are you using organic sprouts? Do you grow them or do you buy them?
Well, I actually do grow my own sprouts in soil, but I don't grow asparagus. I don't grow Brussels sprouts. I just grow like broccoli sprouts, radish sprouts.
Are you capable of getting it organic?
Yes. So I have a great farmer's market near me. So I really only juice the Brussels sprouts and asparagus when they're in season. So maybe like 4 or 5 months out of the year.
Can you stand up here for a second? I'm not sure about this. I'm gonna ask you a question.
Okay.
Do you have a known thyroid problem?
Yes.
Do you have Graves' disease?
I was diagnosed with Graves' disease. I believe I have
Look over here and look at the difference in the eyes.
Oh, yeah.
See how the left eye is bigger and sticking out? That's Graves' disease.
Now, do I believe it's Graves' disease? No, I just think it's heavy metal toxicity.
It's Graves' disease until you get the metals out of your body.
Right, but I don't really have
Sure.
any symptoms of Graves' disease. I have that.
Put your hand right back. See how this right thyroid's sticking out?
Really?
Yeah. Oh, I look at people and go, ah, I mean, just one eye doesn't work quite as fast, it's a bit bigger, it's like, oh man, I miss this one, this is Graves' disease.
Right.
And you're getting the exophthalmic in one eye, and that eye is much bigger than that eye. I didn't see it when you first came in, when you're sitting there talking to me, I'm like, I would say something to you.
Yeah, well, it's really, so when I don't sleep, it gets really pronounced, and I only got the hours sleep last night, and sometimes, oddly enough, the eyes look really symmetrical. Some days they look great, and other days it's really pronounced.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, dear.
You're welcome.
What did she say she juices with?
Brussels sprouts and
Brussels
asparagus.
Brussels sprouts. And what else?
Asparagus.
What's Brussels sprouts?
Goitrogen.
It's a goitrogen.
What?
It's a goitrogen.
Say it again.
Goiter, chin,
Goiter.
generates goiters.
Oh,
So Brussels sprouts, if I look at her, I say, I think you better lay off the Brussels sprouts for quite a while. Because you might have put too much, what is Graves' disease?
Yeah, what is it?
It's your immune system, which is 80% here, 20% here, declaring war on the thyroid. They call it autoimmune. How many? Oh, my friend's got an autoimmune disease. They come in, I have an autoimmune disease. I go, where's your immune system? I don't know. What if I said 80% of your immune system was your gut? Oh, that's great. Now what? I go, well, maybe poop in a cup. Why would I poop in a cup? He says, I need to know what your compost looks like. I don't tell them fecal materials anymore. That never works. That'll work all. I go, we need some of your compost. We have to find out what's missing in your compost. Well, what's in my compost? I go, bacteria, fungus, molds, yeast, things with little eyeballs. I don't know. That's why I'm ordering the test. I need to find out. Now that young lady, you wouldn't just throw tons of iodine at her because she's already showing allergic reactions to iodine. And if you put her in a bunch of iodine, you throw her into what's called a thyroid storm, and she will not like you. She'll get all upset and mad and nervous, and her hair will fall out, and her boyfriend will leave her, and then they blame it on you.
No, I can't take iodine. I test negative for iodine.
You can't live without iodine.
I do calc.
But you have to find what form of iodine you can get into your body, and you probably need some selenium, and you need quite a workup. I mean, you need a big workup. You
he
really
works
do.
long distance.
I'll give you, I have a card at the office. You know, you go to the thyroid doctors and they will, we run your TSH. Well, that's called thyroid stimulating hormone. Great. That's a chemical from my brain going to my thyroid. It has nothing to do with the output of my thyroid. That's the gas pedal to make the thyroid work. Well, let's see. Thyroid stimulating hormone is a little bit off. What does that mean? You're low on selenium. You have a pool of iodine in your body. This is called T4. Body makes a big swimming pool of it. But you can't use it. You got to convert it to T3. What does T4 mean? That means 4 iodine molecules. And T3 means 3 iodine molecules. So you got to shed an iodine to go from the storage pool to the active form. That's the thyroid stimulating hormone. You don't have selenium, that don't work. But if your immune system has got something interfering with it, now if it's interfering with it, it could be any one of these minerals we're looking for. It could be a lot of them. The body said, well, you know, we don't like the thyroid because it makes white blood cells and goes after the thyroid. And it really goofs people up. It can be a real bad event. Then you go to the endocrinologist and they go, don't worry, you're going to eat this radioactive pill. Just don't go near anybody for a while. Make sure you flush the toilet a lot. And then we're going to put you on hormones the rest of your life. Well, but that still doesn't resolve the iodine deficiency issue because you've got to get iodine into every single cell. It happens all the time. There are doctors that are really good at this, that know how to handle this stuff and get rid of it. But they're alternative doctors, and they're hard to get to, and they don't take insurance. They cost a lot of money. And you got to do everything they say. even if they're wrong. Here's your best chance.
So, what came first, the chicken or the egg?
Some people are born with the inability to use many forms of iodine. I can't have shellfish. I eat a crab, I eat a lobster, and they welt out because I'm allergic to iodine. Now you're not allergic to iodine. Iodine is so important, you're allergic to what it's attached to, and you can't break it down. So the body goes into a real defensive mode. Yes?
I can speak on that. So I feel like potentially all disease begins in the gut, and I think that I probably had leaky gut when I was a teenager, and that kind of precipitated the thyroid issue. I've also learned that 100% of people with Hashimoto's, 100% of people with Crohn's disease, and irritable bowel all have leaky gut. So I think that's probably the genesis of origin of a lot of thyroid stuff.
Did you drink the city of New York's drinking water growing up?
No, I didn't. It was. I think it happened. I think that got way before that from a surgery that I had when I was an infant, and I think that it was a surgery that went bad in the kidney adrenal area. So I think I had adrenal problems. I think that's what started precipitated everything.
I don't think I spelled anything right there.
Yeah.
Quality, water quality. That's how you type in water quality. If they don't find it here, drinking water quality report. Get the report. Download the quality report. There we go. This is produced by any city, any government that does any of this stuff. They see drinking water English. Okay, that's the first time I've ever punched that button.
Beautiful graphics.
Yeah. You got to get down to the meat and potatoes. They're showing you all the wonderful places it's coming from.
And the guy in the chemistry lab, I love that too.
I don't think this result's going to be.
Oh, we're getting to it. Oh, there it is. We got lots of aluminum. So, when somebody in New York says you like a glass of water, do you feed them that? No, of course not. You're not giving them water.
No, I mean, what I have a system in my store that I personally only do distilled water, and then I remineralize it just because I don't want to take any chances.
Now, this water's got aluminum, it's got barium in it, calcium, chlorate, fluoride.
Do you
chromium.
shower?
No, I have a filter.
Chromium, yeah. I just got to wait till we get to the point where it says fluoride for the children's teeth.
Yeah, fluoride is I think the worst in New York.
There you go. Water promotes strong teeth. So that's quite a waterfall right there. I would be filtering that water to do anything with it. I wouldn't can with it. I wouldn't make baby nothing with it. I go after whatever's in this stuff. Weak bladder. Weak bladder. We got a pill for that. My pipes, they always bother me. So if a person comes to me and they say, I know there's something wrong with me, when I gotta pee right now, and when I go, I don't go that much. I put a vertebrae in their back in place that's responsible for fluoride. I tell them to get off all the fluoride stuff, and that fixes it. Gotta have T11 put in because there's two muscles in your bladder, and fluoride has a profound effect on weakening one of those. You put that vertebrae in place and go, look, stop using dental floss, fluoride toothpaste, get rid of all the fluoride in your life, get this adjusted, and you can get rid of that problem.
What's the thing with dental floss?
What's that?
Dental
Just get
floss.
organic dental.
Dental floss means flawed. Dental floss means dental fluoridation. So they take a wax and they impregnate it full of fluoride, and then you stick it to your teeth, and then you swallow it for the rest of the day.
They have a vegan one.
They got a fluoride-free strain
Yeah, and
too.
it comes in a recyclable paper. It doesn't have taste or flavor, all the other shit.
Let's
It's
try it.
most of box of strength. And that's it. Check it out, good. You still want to floss.
Yeah,
That's toxic too.
Yeah, whatever you're doing, your teeth are.
So if I see high tin in people, high silver, That's because a lot of alternative people think that if they get viruses and stuff, and if they drink silver and dump it down their sinuses and stuff like that, I just basically ignore silver 99% of the time. Yes, ma'am.
I have thorium mixed up on this.
Thorium? Thorium, thallium. Thorium, I see in hair tests randomly all over the place. And Dr. Dan Scow, I don't know if Dan ever, before he passed on, a lot of people know Dan from other conventions. We asked Dan about this, and he said it's the Mojave Desert that's whipping up these sands and globalizing thorium. That was his best shot. I can tell you that it's part of coal. So if you have coal anywhere near you, you could be getting whatever comes out of a coal-forward plant, which has the minerals, and thorium is one of the minerals in coal. So before I move off that slide, are there any questions on the nasties?
Lead.
When you talk about cadmium,
Cadmium, yes.
you said one kid didn't have it in the family and all the rest did. Say if somebody came to you and you tested them and they didn't have cadmium, but you didn't test the rest of the family, how would you know that he's not?
Well, if he's got the normal amount of garbage coming out of him and there's just no cadmium, meaning none registering,
Yeah.
I'm gonna probably put him on selenium and NAC and then check him in 3 months. I had a guy that had been diagnosed with ALS, and I told him what was going on with cadmium, and he went and found a chelating doctor who listened to what I said, and he tried different things, and he got this guy to start peeing buckets of cadmium. And buckets and buckets of cadmium, and he still died.
Jesus.
I haven't saved an ALS patient yet. And I'm in an ALS group, and there's a lot coming down with ALS, but we're not to the point because there's sporadic ALS, there's an inherited ALS. And I think aluminum may end up being, boron deficiency, aluminum toxicity may end up where this is going to go.
What is ALS?
Amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, Lou Gehrig's disease.
Tell me again how oftentimes the fluid in your spinal.
I'm sorry, what?
You said it was every 8 hours the fluid
Yeah, your fluid is regenerated.
is regenerated.
Yeah, your normal pulse, your normal blood pressure is 120 over 80. So you add it to 2, give you 200, divide it in half, you carry 100 pounds pressure. That pressure equates to only 20 pounds in the cerebrospinal fluid. And then every time you breathe, that fluid is pushed out 64 nerves. So if you take 20 and divide it by 64, you end up with a very small amount of pressure going out each nerve. I make a living at finding those jammed segments and getting that fluid flowing again. And getting this 352.
And from the nerves it goes and excreted out.
It goes right out and it blends into the nerves that go down to the bottom of your feet, the end of your fingers. There's a loop in your brain that goes right back to the brain. It goes to every part of the body.
So recirculate.
Recirculates.
And where is it getting rid of excreting the stuff?
It ends up in the lymph going to the spleen.
Okay.
And then from the spleen it gets digested through the pancreas and into the common bile duct and into the toilet. Or the kidneys, depending on the mode of heavy metals are coming out. Yes, ma'am.
Just quickly, titanium.
Oh, titanium. Huh. Well, that's one of the most common. People go to the store after they watch TV and they get on the internet and they all need calcium pills. Well, all these China pills have more titanium in them than anything else.
And sunscreen, right? Titanium.
It's in sunscreens. Yeah, it's in a lot of places. And it's not. They're coming back going, oh man, maybe we're using too much titanium. This is not a good thing.
What does it displace?
Zinc causes problems with it. Yes, ma'am.
Can you talk about lead?
Lead? It's everywhere. Hope you don't get it. It's everywhere. There's no particular place for lead. There's no place that you can go that you don't end up with lead. The closer to industry you get. Here's your good minerals.
Wait, did you talk about cesium?
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 I certainly can. You don't test for cesium. But that's a very good question because cesium is a very bad mineral, and I wish we were testing for it.
Is that one of the between 38 and 42?
I don't know why they know. They just don't test for it. They don't test for fluoride unless you ask for it. in the study of acupuncture, they have, let's see, troll find husband. They have laws, and the laws that I'm working with are called the husband-wife domination laws. So I got to go to 298, 298. And of course, these things aren't numbered, right? I got to find cesium. So these are called the husband-wife domination laws, where the flow of energy is supposed to go in one direction, but if it reverses, it's bad. You have all these minerals in you that generate 12 magnetic energy fields that the acupuncturists call meridians. And what I did is I rewrote that acupuncture book, and I give you all the minerals in the name of all the subatomic particles that DNA hyperaccumulates and is needed for this constant flow of energy. So I took a periodic table with subatomic particles, I combined it with genetics, and I combined it with acupuncture. That's what the book is I'm releasing tomorrow. It's Minerals for the Acupuncture Meridians. Unfortunately, I'm releasing it, but you can't have it because the website's not done yet. And it's only going to be $25, and I needed your travel money. So they have these husband-wife domination laws. Go back up for a little bit of an explanation. So I call them mineral domination recession laws. The heart has to be strong enough to push blood to the lungs that doesn't have any oxygen and back. But smoke, inhale gas, do something, inflame the lungs, that endangers the function of the heart. The second one, the small intestine has its growth of bacteria. It moves on to the large intestine where it's transformed into something else. But back that fluid into your small intestine, and then you'll endanger the function of the small intestine. There's nothing more common sense than that. The kidneys will dominate the sac around your heart. The gallbladder tells the stomach how to behave. People, I don't have a gallbladder. Well, that's a permanent problem. Now you got to try to come up with a permanent fix all the time because you no longer have that gallbladder. You no longer have control of the ability to tell your stomach when to make acids, and you're not secreting bile in sufficient quantities to absorb oils. That's a bad deal. The liver tells the spleen, that's why you can have your spleen taken out, your liver can pick up the slack, but you cannot have that spleen pick up the slack in the liver. It doesn't work that way. So when I mineralize these, the small intestine dominates the large intestine. So Bernardon is a subatomic particle. This is a subatomic particle, but valine is valid, glycine is valid. And there's nitrogen in charge. So 76% of the atmosphere is nitrogen. You have 6 times the nitrogen receptors on your skin than you do vitamin D receptors. To constantly try to keep you in balance with nitrogen to some respect. So our great farmers grow us lots of food, and we eat food full of nitrogen, and our gut bacteria do what? They rearrange the nitrogen. So in this book, when it comes to nitrogen, what do I list under nitrogen? I list all the B vitamins. Because all the B vitamins are made by gut bacteria converting nitrogens into vitamins. And why do you have vitamins? To absorb minerals. No vitamins, no minerals. Each different vitamin is a different construct of nitrogen. And each one of them has a play to pull in different minerals from the environment. So here we have nitrogen dominating and keeping a mineral of the same charge, which is arsenic, out. And now nitrogen is going to be responsible for keeping what out? What are they going to release in Japan in untold amounts? Millions and millions and millions of gallons of tritium. They can't build any more containers. The ones they got are rotting. Oh, don't worry, it's just low level. Dilution is the solution to pollution. And the oceans are going to have something in it that they've never had. Tritium. And the amount of tritium is going to go back into what to nitrogen. It's going to dominate nitrogen, and there's going to be a whole host of problems with life forms assimilating nitrogen.
Hasn't that been going on?
This is very predictable.
Hasn't that already been going on since Fukushima?
Fukushima has been putting 400 tons of radiation into the ocean, but they're not doing the tritium.
Oh.
But they're ready to take all the tritium and dump it in there, and all that they keep making and just let it go. And they only expect to do it for 25,000 more years.
You get the feeling we're just an experiment.
They say that seaweed can take up a lot of that radiation,
Oh, really?
but seaweed.
Well, that's true.
It is.
Seaweed is a tree. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of people in Maine that think that riparian rights go all the way out to the middle of the ocean, and if you want to get the seaweed out in front of my house, pay me my rights because I own the land all the way out there. It's a tree. What happened in Chernobyl? Where is all the money being spent in Chernobyl right now? Firefighting equipment, because what happened to the trees? It soaked up all the radiation. What happens if you have forest fire? You got a new release of radiation that goes global. So they spent untold millions having firefighting equipment, they don't let the woods burn down. Because it was carbon sequestration at its best, just a touch of radiation. So what trumps this whole deal? Go to the mineral blow. What comes in water bottles? Antimony. So the antimony will goof up nitrogen as well. You're not meant to operate on antimony. You want nitrogen to use arginine, which is the mineral right below nitrogen, not antimony taking a muscle protein called leucine and making it work.
So with all these changes that are taking place, prevention is the best way of dealing with this. What do you do to take this into account with what you did? I mean, they're going to do this.
Iodine, selenium, magnesium, and boron.
Okay.
Same minerals that make the genetic code work.
Just that and obviously, you just got to start doing it now.
Iodine, selenium, magnesium, and boron. For everything that I found wrong, using the laws of physics of minerals and applying it to the genetic code, taking into account all these laws, I come up with 4 minerals that makes the whole darn thing work well. Is it going to keep you from getting cancer? I don't know. The odds right now are 1 in 2. Let's make it 1 in 10.
Okay.
Yeah, I do have I'm not here to push my product, but that's how I do make a living when I come to these conventions, to say, I have something that's 25 cents a day to take. If you're a man, take 2, because you give a lot of your selenium to your wife as often as you can, I imagine. So we have the next human wife. The stomach, this is the gallbladder tells the stomach what to do. So you have hydrochloric acid telling bromine what to do, and bromine is something that's found in 80% of the loaves of bread. We have a bread expert here. You put bromine in yours? No. How much bread has bromine in it? Yeah, it's brominated.
Well, it's chlorinated and it's bromine. We turn it white because we want it to look clean.
And then we don't want it to burn in the toaster, so we had a fire retardant.
Yeah, which is a crock of shit anyways, because it doesn't retard fires anyways.
Yeah. So we have a real problem with bromine, and if you ever see Mountain Dew drinkers, they hang out together.
Yep.
Because it puts them in the same frequency and the mindset.
Well, no, by the way, what was 7-Up? What was the original drink of 7-Up?
I don't know.
Lithium. It was
Well,
number 7.
well-
Lithium. It's a lithium drink.
And Dr. Pepper used to be a boron, because Dr. Pepper was prune juice full of boron, and now there's no prunes in it at all. It's full of phosphoric acid, and they lace it with aspartame. Yeah, and guess what? Ginger ale used to have ginger.
You said the Mountain Dew drinkers all come together?
Oh, yeah. When you see one Mountain Dew, they all hang together, because it puts them on a frequency.
Wow, that's...
Do the dudes,
Makes me wonder if everybody in here eats organic food because we have that frequency.
Here's the one that is really bad, because iodine has the most gravity of any mineral we absolutely have to have. It has more electrons, it has more energy, it's stored in the thyroid, it runs the whole respiration chain. There ain't nothing that gets energy better for you than the thyroid telling mitochondria to work. And right above it, we'll see what? Fluorine. And this goes back to the fluoride being in every place that it shouldn't be. And then you go to the right, you see phosphorus. So what's in the dark colas that makes everybody go wacko? Phosphoric acid. So now you're taking all this phosphorus in, and you see that little red arrow above it? It pushes everything that way, and the body tries to compensate for that arrow going to the right, and it does what? It runs all the magnesium out of your body. One dark cola, one 12-ounce dark cola takes 400 milligrams of magnesium on your body. Wow. We'll have fun today.
I have a seizure disorder and I take phenytoin or Dilantin to keep it under control. And I kombucha. What do you know about that?
Well, if you listen to the Eat Right for Your Blood Type, old people don't have it, so I don't drink it.
Yeah,
Because I never could make my body. Now, if you're taking Dilantin, do you have to stay away from zinc supplementation?
No.
Because a lot of people taking Dilantin for seizures, you put them on zinc, and the body starts dumping the Dilantin and you start having seizures.
No, not at all.
So here we need iodine to buffer his little brother fluoride, and you do find a lot of fluoride in seawater, and it is in sea kelp. It's not like it's not there, but it's got to have the guidance of its big brother, and it tells its cousin phosphorus how to behave, and then people don't feel good, so they load up with pop and bismuth and drink the fluoride drinking water, and the whole world goes nuts.
What's the role between iodine and glutamine?
Iodine makes a chemical called thyroxine. That's the most abundant hormone in the bloodstream. And glutamine, as an amino acid, is the single most abundant amino acid in the bloodstream.
Okay.
And glutamine and the thyroid are well connected. Because these are all amino acids, they're connected everywhere. But the amino acids are there to give things three-dimensional structure, and the minerals give them purpose. And then the trace minerals make all the actions happen.
Would there be a problem? With
Now, to answer your question on cesium, what's the
Would
question?
it be a long-term problem if you had the kombucha or the other enzymes like the Bragg's apple cider vinegar? Any long-term effects from negative effects?
The Bragg's apple cider vinegar, I don't see that any of the food groups are affected by that. And the Bragg's is full of trace minerals and really a great source of boron. Now, you're talking about hooch. If you look at that Eat Right for Your Blood Type, what's it about? It's about sugar. And everything needs energy. And they're saying there's 4 different groups of bloods that each need certain sugars to work. So what are we feeding? We're feeding the gut bacteria. So if you have the wrong bacteria and you're putting the wrong stuff in, you may be percolating the wrong bacteria for your blood type. And there's not enough research to say, well, quote this person or that. I'm just telling you right now that I think that when they say don't have this, it's because it's the bacteria load of your immune system that you're looking after. So the biggest thing that I think that's become a crime is fructose and boron go hand in hand, and they make a pill, calcium fructoborate. But what do they do to make high fructose corn syrup? They strip it of boron. And you drink lots of high fructose corn syrup, what's it want to get to? It want to get to boron, it drags it out of your body. To answer your question on cesium. Cesium is a mineral we need in trace amounts. Chuck Walters, the founder of Acres USA, put me on the map by writing me a book only to use 5 drops of cesium to lower his potassium levels. Because if you're on a kidney dialysis machine and you have a problem with potassium and you have a problem with phosphorus, and he had a dickens of a problem with both of them, you can use cesium in the utmost small quantities, and it dried potassium. It was not phosphorus. It drove the potassium right down. And then there's a product called lanthanum carbonate. You give him that, it lowered the phosphorus levels. We give him the cesium, it lowered the potassium. He was long enough to become the 2nd oldest kidney transplant recipient, and we use cesium. Cesium follows the pathways of potassium, and cesium will liberate lithium in depressed people. But once it's in, it can't get out. Oh, now we got Fukushima. Oops, that's the wrong kind of cesium. It's radioactive cesium following the potassium pathways, and it's abundant compared to what it should be. Yes?
Cesium chloride. Is that the one?
Cesium chloride from Aniva. They quit making it. I got my hands on 1 bottle, and I haven't touched it in 12 years because I don't have the need. But we use cesium chloride from Aniva and lanthanum carbonate in his diet. And he went to the cancer doctors, and he goes, I'm going to do this. And they go, you don't understand. You're not a doctor. It doesn't work that way. He goes, it does work that way. That's how it works. And these doctors, oh, that's okay. Medicare is paying. You're not going to be here very long. And it worked. I called him up. I said, how does it feel to stand up and pee? He said, I don't know. I haven't stood up yet. You know, when you're 78, 77, 78 years old, and somebody gives you a kidney, and you've been on dialysis, kind of drained for 6 years. So cesium is needed. You need sodium. Sodium pushes the aluminum out. Notice where it says tryptophan. Well, tryptophan is used by the thyroid, and this also, you need sodium going through your kidneys, and it has a profound effect on your thyroid. The liver. Your liver and the function of potassium is directly related to your mental stability with lithium and rubidium. And I stand corrected. Cesium is not used for depression. It's rubidium that follows the potassium pathways. And extensive research was done by the pharmaceutical companies, but they couldn't find a way to patent rubidium because it was very effective at liberating lithium. So they switched to fluoride to do something to your brain. But they looked at rubidium very extensively, but they couldn't find that connection where they could say, we made this and it's ours. We get to market it. But you can buy rubidium, and the hair test shows rubidium. So potassium in the liver really makes a tremendous difference on what your lithium is going to do. So if a person is bipolar, and they go to the medical doctor, and they've just gone postal, and they put them on what? Lithium. 500, 1,000 milligrams once or twice a day. Now you're flipping it backwards. What do they got to have tested all the time? The liver enzymes. Oh, if it works a little bit, guess what? They're not absorbing lithium. Why aren't you absorbing lithium? Well, what in your gut is needed to absorb lithium? What do you need? You need a bacteria to make vitamin B13. Uric acid combines with lithium, making lithium orotate. And 5 milligrams in the morning and 5 milligrams at night will make a hair test with no lithium be normal in 90 days. Yes?
Where I live in northern New Mexico, we used to go get lepidolite, and that's the source of lithium.
Okay.
I used to put a rock in a quart glass of water, sit it in the sun, and drink it. And I noticed, instead of this kind of emotional stuff, I was doing that.
What we're going to find on this young lady's hair test, she's probably low in lithium, because David Brownstein and his crew uses a lot of lithium to bring the thyroid back.
Mm.
So a friend of mine is a researcher in Parkinson's, and she's on the West Coast. She's a real naturopath that went to school for 6 years, and her whole life is dedicated to trying to understand Parkinson's. And we got together, and she says, I use Dr. Dana, do you? And I go, yeah. I says, what do you find? And she says, what are you looking for? I said, lithium. And she said, 1 in 2 people have no lithium in their hair in my hair testing. What do you find? I said, 1 in 4, 1 in 5. And it's interesting, because married couples, and I love to get on the phone, well, Mr. LaCase, your wife doesn't have any lithium. Tell me, is the glass half empty or half full? A very polite husband says one word, well. That's all he says. And I know what that means. She's on the phone and she's listening, and he's going to have heck to pay if you don't say the right words. Because they're crazy. They go out the end really bad. So I put them on organic lithium, and I call them back to the next hair test, and I say, tell me, is that glass half empty or half full? You know what they say? It's half full. Thank you very much. Because you dramatically change the outlook of people when they don't have lithium coming out their hair to when it's normal. It changes them radically. People that break down and cry over nothing and flip out and stuff, they ain't got no lithium. Mm-hmm. And people, when you put them on it, you know what they say? I've needed this my whole life.
Yep.
Can you explain a little bit the mechanism of lithium and the thyroid?
Okay, minerals have charges. Iodine is -1. So it's going to want to pull positive ones to it. So what are our choices of positive ones? Lithium, sodium, and potassium. But when you have low lithium levels, it has quite a big effect on the amino acid histidine. And histidine is part of your amino acid complex. And if you're low lithium, you're not controlling your histidine right. So, yes.
To build on that, saying somebody said that I needed this my whole life, does that mean you're going to continue to need that supplementation, or is there something that can get rebalanced?
Vitamin B13 in the 30s and the 20s was considered a vitamin, and you actually took it. Then they go, well, everybody's making it, so we don't have to call it a vitamin. Now, in the age of chemicals like glyphosate, that's an antibiotic, and there are more and more guts that do not have enough of the right bacteria to make boric acid to grab the lithium coming through. Why do some people get addicted to cigarettes? They're getting lithium. So off the lithium, they don't like it. Makes me happy. I'm not right. Well, I'm on this, on that. They smoke cigarettes because they actually get lithium through the lungs.
So it'd be coming back to the health protocol to reestablish gut.
Gut integrity, yeah.
So when somebody has high sodium, let's say they have a high sodium, I mean, this is, I'm surmising based on my knowledge of the periodic chart, you've got a high sodium, you got to go on a low sodium diet. No, you need lithium.
You could use lithium, or you need to gain control of your hormones better. If you have a high sodium, where does sodium process? Sodium processes in the kidneys. So if you're low magnesium, you're going to have altered kidney function. In the book Minerals for the Genetic Code, look up sodium and look up calcium and find out that they share the same amino acid, leucine. So what if you had a leucine imbalance and you're not able to coordinate your calcium and your sodium bases? It could go back to an amino acid screw up. Again, malabsorption, the wrong bacteria in your gut. Then again, what's the 20% of the body that runs the 80%? It's the cerebral spinal fluid. And if it's loaded with too much stuff, it doesn't work. Yes?
I'm kind of switching. I wondered if I have an incorrect realization recently about boron.
Yes.
In plants and in people, it lifts up, it takes up. So would it be an appropriate mineral for prolapsed wombs, bladders, rectums, prolapsed organs?
The ligament, the suspensory ligament is what she's talking about, that it rips and tears. The mineral that makes ligaments work really good is silica.
Silica.
Silica, sand. Now, boron may be involved.
Okay.
Because boron activates vitamin D, and it turns on SAMe, and it makes all your, just the endless barrage of what boron can do for you. But I cannot say, oh, if you just take boron, you're going to, no longer having your uterus hanging out your privates. I mean, it doesn't work that way. But that happens. I mean, it happens to women all the time. They go get these suspensory ligaments, and they pray it takes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so your theory that I might be low lithium was off. Because in fact, I think I'm in the red in lithium.
You're not utilizing
a higher percentage.
No, if it's in your hair.
This I think this is a heavy metal test. I believe this is actually a urine test.
Why are you dumping it? I'll do a hair test and there's high lead, and I'll go after lead. The next hair test, lead goes down. Arsenic, cadmium, beryllium, barium, and all these other minerals jump right up to the red line zone. Once I started to detoxify them, I got it out of the system. So if you tell me that you're dumping on the lithium, I want to know why. Why aren't you retaining the lithium? In that book, that here, Minerals for the Genetic Code, the first thing I'd be looking for is your amino acids, your histidine levels. I'll just put it here for a second.
No, I figured that's what you wanted.
You can go and you can find lithium in the middle of the book, and you can see when it's attached.
Okay.
It's a good book. I wish I would.
That's what I do.
So, do we have rubidium? Do we have lithium? Yeah, we do. We have organic lithium. We have organic rubidium. The thing is everybody's got a beat up liver. I wouldn't go to the store and eat any liver from the stores that I mean, look at the colors of the livers. They have to put pink on it to make it look like it's healthy.
A lot of meat is died.
So we use a lot of liver detox. Milk thistle. What's the active ingredient in milk thistle? In my eyes, it's selenium. It's a selenium delivery system. What's a boron delivery system? Curcumin. What is curcumin? It cleans out everything. You want to take something concentrated, curcumin is the concentrated turmeric.
Oh, turmeric.
And just take it like crazy. I mean, you can take enough curcumin that it acts like a Tylenol. It makes the pain go away as fast as a Tylenol. Just take 3 of them pills. Yes, dear.
So does you shouldn't take turmeric with your diet?
Nope, didn't say that at all. I didn't know anything about turmeric having a bad thyroid.
Well, like the thyroid testing, it'll mimic something on the thyroid test.
I'll have to look that one up. I can't respond to that because I've not had an issue with that. I know that if you go on any kind of lithium, that you do have thyroid patterns that change. Anybody that goes to the doctor and they go, let's say they're already diagnosed with a thyroid problem and they're on Synthroid, and they go to the doctor because they're depressed and they put them on any kind of fluoride pill, within 30 to 45 days they have to double the thyroid medicine. Because people on thyroid medicine know when they're screwed up. They don't like it. But then they go in and say, I'm not doing too good. Oh my gosh, your thyroxine's way down, double it. Go from 0.50 to 1.25. But just get off the stupid fluoride pill. Because that's what's binding it up and driving it down. But my son had problems. My son is the one that had the red hair. I learned about the barium. And it was green hair and it was something else. And my son was and of course he left home when he was 18 being all goofy. He's very happy now. I'm very happy to tell you it took me 10 years to bring him back. So I'm in a doctor's room with him. I've been a psychologist for 40 years. I've been a chiropractor for 36. And my son looks at me and says, I don't care what you take. You can't take a fluoride pill. We don't give no fluoride pills out. I says, you're talking to a molecular biologist. Are you crazy or don't you read your scripts? Well, I'll be right back. In about 20 minutes, he come in, he says, I found one that doesn't have fluoride. He found one. They don't look at these labels. They look at the symptom relief. They have no idea. So what if it's got fluoride? To them, it doesn't make a difference. They know that they got a set of symptoms to keep this guy from going to jail or prison or committing suicide. That's all they care about. It ain't quality of life. It ain't longevity. So, I think we had one more to go. This is my most favorite one to talk about. The heart. That big pump that generates a ton of electricity is actually governed by boron. And selenium. So boron helps the body retain magnesium, utilize calcium, retain selenium, and the bottom one there says yttrium. The bacteria in your gut, the bifidobacteria, they actually sequester selenium and they insert selenium into your antioxidant genes. And on the heart is a ductless gland that creates nitric oxide. And without selenium and arginine, you're not going to make no nitric oxide. You're not make it very good. So what is it there? Boron is to tell scandium what to do. Oh gosh, Rich, don't tell me you had another pill to take. Scandium. No. That's the 12th most abundant element on the sun, and the frequency of that sunlight from the sun triggers the production of vitamin D3. So boron tells vitamin D3 how to behave. And if you don't have vitamin D, you can take boron and get your body to generate vitamin D3. But was scandium found in the brain? Yep. Was yttrium found in the brain? Yep. Every mineral I predicted, the minerals for the genetic code, was found in the brain. I'm like, let's see, I came up with that book. I came up with this concept in 1996. I read a book in 2005 and 2017. I can actually then write a book and say, I was right. It's cool. Trust me, it's really cool.
So, not to pick at your grand mineral complex, but you include D3 in that,
yep.
Even though there's boron in it.
Yep.
So is that just because the boron's not really functional to speed up the process, or just
no? When it comes to tumor suppression, if I walked up to David, I said, walk up to Claire, I says, geez, your vitamin D is not very good. How does she know I'm talking about breast cancer? Because women that have breast cancer can have breast cancer for years, and the vitamin D keeps it asleep. But you get low on vitamin D, it lets it wake up. So if you just go into PubMed and you type cancer, apoptosis, vitamin D, you'll find thousands of articles where vitamin D keeps cancer asleep. I woke up in the middle of the night only to find out that Bob Hope had cancer for 50 years. He actually had a dog that would smell cancer when he knew it was getting bad and he did things about it. So from the age 50 to age 100, he had trained dogs that could smell cancer when he was getting bad. And they didn't say what he did. I don't know if he went to Mexico, he didn't live too far away.
You have a massage every day.
Yep. Wow. We have 4 minutes, so let me see, was there any more minutes to talk about?
That's in your book, right? The one that's coming out? Oh,
yes. This is a really cool chart. I like the laws of physics. For every reaction, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So according to acupuncture, all the cosmotic energy of the universe enters your body at 4 a.m. at 4 a.m. is when scandium or vitamin D should be most active. What's going on at 4 in the afternoon? Well, that's when your body is regenerating iodine. So this is the chart for every hour the regeneration is going on and what's going on 12 hours later. So here's selenium, 7 a.m., what's going on at 7 p.m., magnesium. So if boron allows you to retain selenium, magnesium, if you don't have boron and lose your magnesium, what else are you going to lose? You're going to lose selenium. If you lose selenium, what are you going to get? You're going to get viruses. What is the percentage of cancer that's virus related? 65%. There's another little quirk, deuterium. How many people have experienced drinking chaga?
Yeah.
Chaga pulls the deuterium out of your body and gets it to the right ratios with selenium. It's the most prized herb in Chinese medicine, and nobody can tell me what it did, but I figured it out because it happened to me. I did a bunch of chaga and I lost 8 pounds and it wasn't water. It was all deuterium.
So that's a tea? Chinese tea?
Yeah, it's actually
It's a mushroom.
where you get a lot of it.
It's a mushroom.
It's a mushroom, okay. And here we have noble gases. Here's helium, the number one mineral of the sun that gets converted to hydrogen under thermonuclear reaction that gives us all the light we got. We do enjoy noble gases. It's in every breath you're taking. It's dissolved into the ocean. This allows your thought process to interact with the DNA code. It's the link between your mental activity and your DNA health.
This is helium?
Helium, argon, neon, xenon. There's 3 subatomic particles, noble gases too. Alphanon, betanon, gammanon.
You've spoken a lot about boron last workshop.
That's because I got a new book coming out that I want you to buy.
Can you share with the folks what you thought was good sources of boron? And I think someone mentioned
Plums.
borax.
Plums, raisins, apple seeds with the apples, Bragg's apple cider. All fruits have boron. The more fruits you eat, the more boron you're going to get. Just try to eat fruits that doesn't have Roundup spray on them in it.
And if the farmers are adding boron to their fields.
Yeah, there's only one juice made in Florida that's organic. It's Uncle Ben's. And they know what they're doing. So if you go get orange juice, get Uncle Ben's. You're going to get milk. Get organic milk. I'm not here to tell you that these are the only products I would drink because I understand what's going on behind the scenes. Do I know anything about the Himalayan salt? No. But have I been to the Redmond salt mines? Yes. Am I going to Thorvin Kelp in Iceland? Yes, I'm going there next summer. I want pictures of the place that I'm getting it from. Am I going to sell chiropractic beds? I'm going to the factory and I'm taking pictures. So I say, yeah, I know the guy. I drank beer with the guy. I picked his mind. I picked his mind on the way here. I said, well, I'm putting all your beds in here. I said, you don't use bromine? He says, no, we've been using boronic acid. He says, but a lot of chiropractors want it gone. I said, they want what gone? Boron? You're putting boron into a mattress and they want it out? I go, why? Well, I'm not really sure, but I do know why is because these kinesiologists that study kinesiology, they muscle test, and when they get proper boron going into their body, it goofs up all their muscle testing and they can't work themselves out of it.
Why? Why would that goof up muscle?
Because it affects the heart meridian. It affects the electrical activity of the heart. When boron gets in there, it makes everything else start working better, and their whole concept kind of goes away. So I don't want boron in that bed. I lose control of what's going on. So I said, what else? And he says, well, they say boronic acid is part of rat poison. I says, well, people take rat poison every day. It's called warfarin. What's the big deal? I says, if I come out with a book and see how good boronic acid is, I says, I bet you I can sell 10 times as many mattresses with boronic acid than without it. I said, it's not like you get on a couch and you breathe bromine, you get fat, lazy, and stupid. You go to bed, you wake up smart and horny. Thank you for having me.